Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the year ahead spread. So am I going to do one this year? What do I think about them? And I have to say the jury is out on what I think about year ahead spreads. I think it's fun, and the previous one blew my mind when I checked back against my camera roll for the year. It really followed the cards I pulled. Now this year I normally pull my year ahead from November to November, so from birthday to birthday, but I didn't pull a year ahead spread in November this year. I thought if I'm going to do it, I think I might do it from January to follow the actual year. My last pull was with Poppy Palin's the Everyday Enchantment Tarot, and I think because of things that happened with Poppy in 2022, I kind of stopped looking at my cards. My card of the year was the Death card, and it was out in my tarot room, and to be honest I didn't even go into my tarot room for quite a while. And I was taking notes to do this video with and looking at synchronicities, and I did that for a few months and I threw all those notes away. And so the year ahead card reading for me this year, it kind of is laced with a lot of other emotions, and I did think, should I be doing this video or not? But I wanted to. I thought I would just get those 12 cards back out. It was a death year last year for me. I'm about to go into my temperance year, and I think this death card is one of the most beautiful death cards in tarot. So the death of something, and I had quite a tough year. For me, there was, looking back, definitely a death of something within the year, and a facing up to the fact that there is a need to move on and leave people behind. Mid-year things happened that just closed the door on any hope of family coming back round or apologising or owning up to the truth, and I had to realise that the door was absolutely closed. And if you've got no contact with the family, that's really tough to do. It's never a light decision, but things happened, and yeah, I think I let go this year, and it was tough. It was really tough. The Chariot, at times I didn't feel like my underlying energy card was the Chariot card. I really didn't feel like my hands were on the steering wheel at all. But then I look at this card, and this person's hands on any sort of steering wheel at all either. In fact, there's a very strong possibility that they're going to overbalance at any moment. And for me, that was very pertinent to the feeling of the whole year. And because I didn't face up to the death of the hopes I was holding till the very end of the year, and I didn't see that actually I'd come through and out and was in a much better place now. The same with the Chariot. I didn't really feel ready to balance and get momentum going till the very end of the year either. This year kind of took me down and out a few times as I learnt to deal with acceptance and facing up to who and what people truly are, the death of the mini hopes I was holding on to. I think disbelief sometimes makes you hold on to hope, and that can be a painful thing really if it's hope that you shouldn't be holding on to. It kept me feeling out of balance, overwhelmed, very sad in 2022, but to come through and out the other end and to close the door, it feels like a victory. And I do feel like these two cards do really sum up my year. So those were the two major cards. I'm going to go through the cards that I pulled month by month. What I did, I went through some messages with friends to remind me what happened in the year. I also went through my camera roll on my phone to remind me. So my first card was pulled all the way back in November 21, and it was the Ace of Coins. And I can remember starting that November being very overwhelmed and very shot at with arrows. It made me smile that it was somebody with a hard hat on to protect them, to protect your thoughts, and just to take life one step at a time. This was a really clear message for what the year was going to become, a year of overwhelm really, and a reminder to please just take one step at a time, and one step at a time will keep you level. And it's to do with family life. We're in the suit of coins, things that throw you out of balance with family. Put your hard hat on, protect your mind, protect your thoughts, take it one step at a time to stay level. Now, when I checked my camera roll, there were only a few photos on my camera roll for that November, and they were also one step at a time, a brick at a time. And I can remember in that November thinking, take it one brick at a time. So to upload my camera roll and to see these as the only pictures for that month was incredible really. This was my oil painting for the Hierophant blocks, one block at a time, a little bit like in the wall. So it's almost like saying, the one block at a time, that's how you build a wall, it's how you build foundations, just one step at a time, was the lesson that I needed to learn of the Hierophant through the year. So that really jumped out at me for the first month. For December 21, I pulled the Knight of Coins. So again, we've still got that message of just one step at a time, the plod to get the jobs done, to not race. We've got a guy on the skateboard in the background again, reminding me of the Chariot again. When I checked my camera roll for this and some messages, that month was all to do with sorting out my car. I had to sort my car, clean it, to take it in to get it re-evaluated, and to order a new Motability car, which took a while to sort and do. It was a couple of trips to the car garage. So just within the imagery, I thought that was really surprising. But a similar message to plod, to take on the big jobs one step at a time. Then we get to January of 22, and I pulled for January the Page of Wands. This really sums up that kind of idea of exploring and childhood adventure. And don't you know, January was the month where Adventure Tarot was born, when me and a friend decided to start a quest for the Sheila gigs. I decided that I really was desperate to get my tarot cards away from my desk and out into the wider world to explore, to throw tarot into my bag, to walk the woods, to jump the streams. Adventure Tarot was born in this month, so I think that's just so brilliantly apt. In February, I pulled the Three of Cups, and Adventure Tarot was still happening. My friend who I was doing Adventure Tarot with, we were coming up with more adventures, we were making plans. After a few years of being very isolated, it was just really lovely to feel like I was connecting again. The kids had friends over as well. We had baking weekends here in the house. It was just really nice to feel more connected. And another amazing thing, which I was going to do a whole video about in its own right, which is going to sound odd, I found online a society that I was a member of without even realising. And I'm sure that some of you may have noticed that I have very strange, odd thumbs, inherited from my father. I just thought it was me and Dad that had strange thumbs, really short, really broad nail base. When I was perusing the internet one night, I discovered a clubbed thumb society. This isn't just an odd shaped thumb, this is actually a whole thing in its own right. It's a club thumb. You can have a double clubby, which is 2 club thumbs, which is what I've got, or you can have a single clubby, a single club thumb. To find that club in February, I just felt so amazing. I can't even describe it. I thought after Dad died that I was the only person left with this thumb, and that idea has come up in artwork. I did a whole sketchbook about it. The big piece of artwork behind me has got embroidered thumbprints on it. It was a big deal for me. In fact, my odd accent and my odd thumbs were 2 of the reasons why I put off doing a YouTube channel, because I thought, who's going to want to listen to this accent and my voice? Because I was always teased about my voice, and I was always teased mercilessly about my hands and my thumbs. So to find a whole society, the Clubbed Thumb Society, it was like that video, that music video where the little girl in the bumblebee outfit discovers a whole field of similar bumblebees. It literally felt like that. So the 3 of Cups for February was just so apt. So March, the Hanged Man, I had big plans for March. The caravan season opened again. We hadn't been up to the caravan for years really. I was super excited about getting up to the caravan really early, and then COVID hit. Tilly got COVID, and I was really scared about Tilly getting COVID because as part of her syndrome she has virtually no immune system, which is why we'd shielded for 2 years. So everything came to a grinding halt. Everything was put on hold, and we had 2 weeks of getting Tilly through COVID, and everything went on hold. The whole world was turned upside down. In that time between nursing Tilly, I did some sketchbook work in my studio. And when I looked back on that sketchbook work, it was all sketchbook work exploring the idea of poison and having to give up things that are poisonous in my life, the sacrifices that I've had to make. I even did an oil painting tarot study in my tarot journal around the Queen of Swords, exploring the idea of toxic mothers swimming in a poisonous sea, trying to poison the other fish around her. The reasons for the sacrifices that I'd had to make, the sacrifice of our plans for that month while Tilly got better. Thank goodness she did, but that seemed apt as well for March. So April, I pulled the 2 of Blades. April saw us back at the caravan, eventually delayed, but we got back, and I really did feel this energy because instead of it being joyous, I got there were burst pipes. The shower was pouring water down the back of the shower. I had to completely replace the shower. I had to chase plumbers down. The skylight on the caravan had failed, and every time it rained, water was pouring onto the kitchen floor. So I'd got buckets around the caravan. I couldn't put the water on there. There was a lot of trying to organise people to come out and see and to book people in. Also, it was applying for Tilly's transition, and Tilly turned 16 in March, which meant everything that was in place for Tilly, all her care packages, the fact that I was her carer, everything stopped. All of the money for Tilly stopped. I had to apply for new money for Tilly. I had to apply to become an appointee. I had to go and visit places to see what would be the next step after school. There was a lot going on, and it did take me out and under more than once. That feeling of overwhelm through the year. Good friends stepped in to support me and help me, and I did a few necessary appointments, sorting out paperwork in tears. It was so much. Every phone call I made, nobody would speak to me anymore because Tilly was officially 16. It was just impossible. Everywhere I turned, I had to fill out new forms. I had to have Zoom interviews for the new forms to go through with people. it was difficult. This really sums up the energy in every direction in April. In May, I'd pulled the Seven of Blades, and oh boy did this fit. May was when the world came crashing down around me. May was the death of that hope I'd spoken about, where I realised that backstabbers were truly backstabbers. There were going to be no apologies. There was going to be no owning up to the truth. People were happy to leave situations as they were, with me excluded and blamed and gaslit. So the Seven of Blades, it was my wake-up call that there was the death of something. It really did feel like this. It felt like somebody stealing parts of me away, and just the horror of having to face up to that. Cunning people around me trying to steal my joy. In a way, it was such a liberation to finally let go of that final hope, to see the smashed windows, to see treasures that I thought were my treasures being stolen. It made me realise I'd got to start again, and I did what I normally do in moments of big emotion. I went into my art studio and I started painting again. What haven't people stolen from me? Nothing really, because there was nothing there that was true to start with. So it was a difficult month, April. It did set me back in lots of different areas, but it was a final wake-up call to let go and to fall into my death year. In June, 3 cards flew out for June, so all in the coin suit. So I thought, this is going to be a month about home. It's going to be a month about family and nurturing. So I got the Queen of Coins, I'd pulled out the Six of Coins, so gifts, and I'd pulled out the Seven of Coins. I imagined myself in the garden or in the art studio and around family. And it's apt that there's a fence in the background of this, because in June, at the beginning of June, I did do the vegetable garden fence. When I looked back at the photos in my camera roll, I couldn't believe that this was the time that I did it. I did it very much in these sort of colours as well. Really, really apt. You've got the dog there looking on and the goat looking on. It just made me laugh, because all the fences in the garden are needed because the dogs keep breaking through and destroying stuff. So the dog and the goat kind of symbolised my two behind me on the bed, wondering what I'm doing again. And gifts as well, and the needy. Well, Poppy, Busby and me all got COVID, and I was really seriously ill in this month. It took me well into July to recover, so I was very needy, and at times the kids took over. I lost a good 2 days where I can't even remember anything. So it definitely was at home. There was real neediness there, and a need for somebody else to take over. Poppy did, even though she was sick as well, but I was unconscious at times. So yeah, that kind of fits as well. So July was the Ten of Blades, and it did feel very much like this. I had the beginning of July, I was really so sick, and I think being that sick as a single mom, where you're the only adult in the house, you do feel the pain of family that could have been helping that instead were backstabbing. So it did bring thoughts of that back. Like I said, it's been one of those years for me where I had to face up to a lot of things. But when I got over COVID towards the end of the month and began to feel better, went back to the caravan. Now, my friend came with me, but she was also in this sort of place. She'd just had something terrible happen to her. So we were both reeling from things like this in our own lives. So we went to Wales for a weekend and we had a wonderful time to recover. We went wild swimming, we found beaches, we went walking, we talked and we cried, and we tried to come up with ways for both of us to move out of our situations with backstabbers. This kind of does feel like the energy of that month. We also, in July, went to Margaret's house, and I think there was that angst in that story, the tragedy of that story. It was me, my friend and Margaret. We'd all had some sort of angst that had pushed us to this place. Margaret not allowed to be buried in the church with her children, locked out by a church wall. Visiting Margaret's house was the most impactful event of 2022, and it was born out of this energy. So August hit, and at last a positive card, the Six of Wands, and it really did, after some quite trying times and lots of illness, feel like a bit of a victory. Me and the kids, we got to Wales for a week. My friend also joined us. We went paddleboarding, we went wild swimming again with the kids. I went to a outdoor cinema showing of Encanto. There was lots of lovely things booked in August. It felt like coming up for air, pulling the knives out, accepting the death of certain hopes. It felt like being on the other side. This was perfect for August. September was the Hierophant and a classroom where you learn things, rooms. The only thing that I can think of with this was September was where I got busy rejigging the whole house. I gave up my tarot room and turned it into a teenager's room with the drum kit in there, so Busby could learn his drumming without disturbing our neighbour, because every time he played his drum kit in his bedroom, the neighbour complained. So it seems funny that there's a little mouse here, as quiet as a mouse in a new room, in a room to learn. Perhaps this is about changing rooms around. I also started decorating my doll, what would be my doll room, and I rejigged all of my bedroom as well. So it was a busy month, changing everything around. And finally, in the last month of this 12-month card pull, which was October, I pulled the Seven of Wands, and here you've got somebody standing almost alone, really, a loud voice standing alone. And I think this was the message of my whole year. I finished in October realising things in the house were also falling apart. There was a hole in the roof, the hedges were falling down, all sorts of things were happening, and I did feel like a lone voice trying to do it all, trying to stand my ground against life alone. But I think that has been the message that I have had to face up to this year. There is no apology coming. There is no army coming in to help. There is no revealing of truth about to drop. But I think facing up to that has opened up the door for me to move on, to finally move on. And I know I'm ready for that, because we've just had Christmas, and it's been the first Christmas that I haven't mourned the losses that I've gone through. I didn't miss anybody. I just felt relief. I felt gratitude for what I'd got. I felt joy for what I'd got. I think facing up to this has been a key to freedom for me. That was my 12 months. And I think I am going to pull another 12 cards. I am going to use, I think, for this, what shall I use? I might use the Tarot Avatara, I think, for this. Let's have a year with Frida. Let's see what the Tarot Avatara has in store. So I've riffle shuffled 7 times. and now I am going to wait for jumpers. So this first card is going to be for January. Now it's my temperance year, but I've left temperance in the deck just for now, just to see if it wants to come out to give me a double temperance month at all. So we shall see. So for January, oh, there's one that came out. So we have the Four of Pentacles for January, the Queen of Cups for February, another Queen, the Queen of Pentacles for March, April, the Princess of Swords for April, for May, the Eight of Swords for May, June, the High Priestess, July, the Princess of Pentacles, August, we have the Hanged Man, September, we have the Ten of Cups, October, we have the Five of Wands, November, we have the Ace of Swords, December, we have the King of Cups. The underlying energy for the year is my bottom of the deck card, and it is the Four of Wands. So it's actually a temperance year for me, so that's exciting. I am glad that I've done a year ahead. It is just really interesting to record it somewhere and then to look back. I'm going to try this year and not give up on it halfway through, and try and just keep a track of it as I go through the year. So those are some interesting cards, I think, for my year ahead. It's going to be really lovely to do a year with Frida out the whole time. I don't think I'm going to put this deck away at all in 2023. So that's it, guys, a review of a year ahead spread and how I do it. So I looked at messages, I looked at my camera roll, I looked at any diary entries as well, and my YouTube channel is like a visual diary as well. Looking back did give me the clear lesson of the just take one step at a time. That came out of this whole 12-month reading for me. So that is a lesson that I'm going to move forward with. I am just going to keep an eye on these. I'm not going to class them so much as predictive readings, whereas I might say, oh, May was the Eight of Swords, so that means I'm going to be anxious all May. I don't think you can do it like that. It just might mean that I look at ways at working at self-care in May to combat this. So it's kind of like a heads up, isn't it? Not a prediction, but a heads up, and it's just fun to look back on as well. So I hope you got something out of that, guys. I hope it might have encouraged you to decide whether you want to do a year ahead spread or whether you don't want to do a year ahead spread. I hope it encouraged you to look back at your spread if you don't tend to do that, and to use your camera roll to help you. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and a happy new year to you all.